Have you ever felt like life is pulling you in so many directions, you don't even know where your peace went? You wake up tired, you go to bed exhausted, you smile outside, but inside, there's a war going on. Mental balance, it's not a luxury anymore, it's a survival skill. Let me share with you a simple truth. You cannot control what the world gives you, but you can absolutely control how you respond. But here's the challenge. Most of us have trained for a job, we've trained for fitness, but how many of us have trained our minds? Mental balance doesn't mean you're always calm. It means you know how to bring yourself back to calm. That's the difference. That's maturity. That's strength. Let me tell you a short story. There was a man walking with his 8-year-old daughter in the park. Suddenly, the little girl tripped over a rock and fell. She cried, not because she was seriously hurt, but because the fall scared her. The father didn't shout, he didn't panic. He simply sat beside her, wiped her tears, and said, "It's okay to fall, sweetheart, but the goal is to learn how to rise faster each time." That's mental balance. Not denying the fall, but mastering the rise. Many of us are walking around with invisible wounds, stress, anxiety, overthinking, but the world sees us smiling, so they assume we're fine. That's why balance is not just about what's outside, it's about what you're carrying within. Now ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind every day? We clean our homes, wash our cars, detox our bodies. But when was the last time we detoxed our minds? Don't just scroll, reflect. Don't just react, respond. Don't just exist, align. Mental balance is the art of staying centered in a world that constantly tries to throw you off track. What kind of balance is the art of staying centered in a world that constantly tries to throw you off track? Sometimes people will misunderstand you, sometimes plans won't work out, sometimes your own thoughts will be your enemy. But here's the good news. Peace is not something you find outside, it's something you build within. Remember, your mind is like a garden. If you don't intentionally plant flowers, weeds will grow automatically. So feed your mind with uplifting books, gratitude journals, honest friendships, silent moments, purposeful thoughts. A turbulent mind leads to a turbulent life, but a calm mind creates clarity, and clarity creates direction. Let me share one more moment. A monk once said to his disciple, "You are not your thoughts." The disciple asked, "Then who am I?" The monk smiled and said, "You are the one watching those thoughts." That's what awareness is. That's what balance is. You don't have to react to every emotion. Just like clouds pass by in the sky, let your thoughts pass too. Watch them. Learn from them. But don't let them control you. And lastly, give yourself permission to rest. Rest is not laziness. Rest is wisdom. Rest is healing. Even God rested on the seventh day. So why are you trying to run 24/7? Mental balance comes when you slow down enough to hear your soul again. Let's stop living a life that only looks good online. Let's build a life that feels peaceful offline. Because the truth is, you don't need a perfect life to feel balanced. You need a present mind to feel peaceful. Have you ever been to the gym or tried a home workout routine? You pick up a dumbbell, you start lifting it, and at first it feels heavy. Your arms ache, your muscles tremble. You even question whether this discomfort is worth it. But if you stay consistent, day by day, week by week, something starts changing. The same weight that once felt unbearable starts feeling lighter. You lift it with more ease, more strength, more grace. Now think about this. What if your mind is the same? What if every negative thought, every moment of stress, every wave of anxiety is a weight that you're meant to train with, not avoid. Just like a physical muscle doesn't grow overnight, mental strength also doesn't come from a one-time motivational quote or a quick meditation session. It's a daily commitment, a conscious repetition of thoughts, habits, and attitudes that build your resilience. Imagine a student preparing for exams. He doesn't become mentally sharp by just reading the syllabus once. He studies, revises, practices mock tests. He makes mistakes, learns from them, and slowly his confidence grows. That's exactly what happens when we train our mind consistently. We learn to handle life better, not because life gets easier, but because we get stronger. There's a beautiful saying, ships don't sink because of the water around them. They sink because of the water that gets inside them. Your mind is like that ship. The negativity of the world, the stress from your job, the judgments of others, these are all the waters around you. They only become dangerous when you let them in. But how do you build a mind that doesn't absorb every insult, every pressure, every rejection? The answer is training, repetition, discipline. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you wake up and the first thing you do is open your phone. You scroll through social media, pictures of perfect lives, smiling faces, people showing off their success. Subconsciously, you start comparing. She looks better, he's richer, their life is more exciting. Without even realizing, your day starts with a weight on your heart. And most importantly, you start getting into beliefs that everything is going so perfectly, you can do nothing wrong, and you fail to do anything. That's a hard. But now imagine an alternative. You wake up, and before touching your phone, you sit in silence for 5 minutes. You take deep breaths. You say 3 things you're grateful for. You read a few lines of something positive or spiritual. It may feel insignificant at first, but you've just done your first mental push-up of the day. And if you do this every single day, guess what? You're building strength. Your mind becomes less reactive, more grounded. You don't compare as much. You don't rush into anxiety. You've started to train. Think of professional athletes. They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds to perform under pressure, to focus when it counts, to not get discouraged when they fall. They have coaches, routines, habits. Why should your mind be treated with any less importance? One of the greatest problems we face today is not that we don't have time, it's that we don't have mental awareness. We let our minds run wild. One thought leads to another, and before we know it, we're trapped in overthinking, fear, and self-doubt. But with training, you become the master. You notice when a negative thought arises, and instead of letting it spiral, you pause, you question it, you replace it. Just like an athlete has to say, I will run today, even if I'm tired, you say, I will focus on gratitude today, even if my circumstances aren't perfect. This is not about suppressing emotions. It's about strengthening your capacity to deal with them. Let's take another example. A mother managing a household, children to care for, meals to cook, work to handle, emotions to manage. It's easy for the mind to get overwhelmed, but a trained mind learns to prioritize peace over perfection. It understands that mistakes are part of life, that not everything has to be controlled, that breathing in the middle of chaos is more powerful than controlling the chaos itself. And here's the most beautiful part. The more you train your mind, the more you inspire others. Your calmness becomes contagious. Your stability becomes strength for your family. Your mindset becomes a lighthouse for someone else going through a storm. So yes, mental training takes effort. But every time you choose silence over reaction, reflection over judgment, patience over panic, you are lifting the mental weights. And as your muscles grow, so does your life. Not because everything around you changes, but because you do. You become less influenced by the noise and more in tune with your voice. You stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and become a master of your mind. So the next time life throws challenges at you, and it will, don't panic. See it as an opportunity to train, to grow, to strengthen. Because in the gym of life, every struggle is a chance to build the most powerful muscle of all, your mind. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it almost immediately? Maybe it was during an argument with a friend, a disagreement at work, or even while speaking to your child. That split second where emotions hijack logic, where anger silences understanding, and before you even realize what happened, damage is done. That's the difference between reacting and responding. And mastering this one difference can completely transform your relationships, your peace of mind, and your entire approach to life. To react is easy. It's instant. It requires no training. It's like touching a hot surface. You withdraw your hand without thinking. But to respond, that takes awareness. It takes control. It takes maturity. Responding is what happens when you introduce space between what happens to you and what happens within you. Imagine you're driving on a busy road. Someone suddenly cuts you off. Your heart races. Your first impulse is to shout, honk, or even curse. That's reaction. But what if just for a moment you paused? You took a deep breath. You told yourself, maybe that person is rushing to a hospital. Maybe they're having a terrible day. You let go. You choose peace over pride. That's responding. Responding doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you walk above the chaos. You choose to stay rooted even when storms try to shake you. In one of the spiritual retreats I once attended, a monk shared a very profound analogy. He said, your mind is like a glass of water. When you stir it, the mud rises and everything becomes unclear. But if you let it sit still, the mud settles and clarity returns. Reactions stir up the mud. Responses allow stillness, and from that stillness, you see the truth clearly. The mud stirs the mud. Reactions stir up the mud. Responses allow stillness, and from that stillness, you see the truth clearly. Let me share a small incident from a regular family life. A mother is preparing dinner. She's tired from a long day. Her teenage son comes into the kitchen, slams his bag on the table, and says, "Why don't you ever make what I like to eat?" Now at that moment, she has two choices. One, react with, "Do you even realize how hard I work?" Or, "If you don't like it, make it yourself." Or two, take a breath, understand this isn't about the food, and respond calmly, "I understand you're upset. Let's talk after dinner." One path escalates the issue, the other diffuses it. Responses heal, reactions hurt. We live in a world that's constantly triggering us. Notifications, disagreements, expectations, disappointments. But what if every time we felt triggered, we saw it as an invitation to grow? I once met a man who had mastered the art of responding. He was calm, even in the face of insult. Curious, I asked him, "How do you stay so composed when people provoke you?" He smiled and said, "How do you stay so composed when people provoke you. He smiled and said, "When someone gives you a gift and you don't accept it, who does it belong to?" I said, "The giver." He replied, "Exactly." So when someone offers me their anger, their insult, their drama, I don't accept it. It stays with them. That level of emotional intelligence is built over time. It's not about becoming cold or distant. It's about staying connected to your inner peace, even when the outside world is in chaos. Think about the most admired leaders in history: Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa. They didn't react, they responded. Even when attacked, misunderstood, and mistreated, they chose thoughtful action over impulsive retaliation. Their strength lay not in shouting louder, but in standing taller. Now bring this back to your own life. Think of the arguments that could have ended differently if you had paused before speaking. Think of the decisions that could have been better if you had taken just one more moment to reflect. Think of how much pain could be avoided if we chose understanding over ego. Every situation in life gives us two roads: the path of reaction and the path of response. One is crowded, noisy, and filled with regret. The other is crowded, noisy, and filled with regret. The other is crowded, noisy, and filled with regret. The other is crowded, noisy, and filled with regret. The other is crowded, noisy, and filled with regret. The other is crowded, noisy, but leads to peace and deeper connections. This doesn't mean we suppress our emotions, not at all. It means we honor them without being ruled by them. It means we feel anger, but we don't become it. We feel sadness, but we don't drown in it. We feel joy, but we don't lose ourselves in attachment. The next time someone says something hurtful or a situation pushes your buttons, don't rush. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, what would a wise version of me do in this moment? That little pause could save your relationship. That little pause could protect your peace. That little pause is where your power lies. Responding is a habit, and like all habits, it gets stronger the more you practice it. Start small. Pause before replying to a message. Pause before reacting to a criticism. Pause before making assumptions. In that pause, you'll find not just your words, but your wisdom. And remember, you were created to be useful, not just your words, but your wisdom. And remember, life is not about avoiding difficult moments. It's about facing them with grace. The art of responding gives you that grace. It doesn't promise a perfect life, but it helps you build a peaceful one. Train yourself to respond, not react, and you'll begin to experience freedom, even in the middle of life's greatest storms. In the noise of the world, the most beautiful thing you can give yourself is inner space. It's the one thing we're constantly losing without even realizing it. From the moment we wake up, our mind is filled with notifications, to-do lists, voices, demands, opinions. There's hardly a moment to just be. And yet, it's in those quiet, spacious moments that we remember who we truly are. Creating inner space is not about escaping the world. It's about creating room inside your mind and heart to actually live in it more meaningfully. Think about your room. If it's cluttered with too many things, even the most valuable item gets lost in the mess. In the same way, when your mind is cluttered with too many thoughts, fears, comparisons, and regrets, your true wisdom, your joy, and your peace get buried under the noise. You don't lose them, they're still there. You just can't feel them. You don't lose them, they're still there. You just can't feel them because there's no space. Inner space is about learning to say, let me breathe before I break. It's about catching yourself before you drown in pressure. It's about understanding that just because your mind is busy doesn't mean your life is full. Sometimes the busiest minds are the loneliest hearts. I remember once being at a cafe, watching a father with his little daughter. She must have been around 5 years old. He was talking non-stop, her eyes filled with excitement, trying to tell him about her day, but the father was glued to his phone, nodding absently. She tried again, tugging on his sleeve. "Papa, are you listening?" And that moment struck me deeply. We're present, but we're not truly there. Our body is in one place, but our mind is somewhere else. We're everywhere, but we're nowhere. Creating inner space begins when you reclaim your attention. When you creating inner space begins when you reclaim your attention. When you say, I will not let the outside world occupy every inch of my inner world. Because when your mind is constantly crowded, even small problems feel like big ones. But when your inner space is clean, calm and open, you begin to see things clearly. You begin to respond to life from wisdom, not from anxiety. Let me take you to another real life scenario. Imagine waking up in the morning and the first thing you do is reach for your phone. You see an email from work, a friend's vacation photo, someone's opinion online. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already racing. You've given away your peace, your power, your priority. Now imagine a different morning. You wake up, take a few minutes in silence, breathe deeply, maybe sip your tea slowly near a window. You take a journal and write what you're grateful for. You pray, meditate, or simply sit quietly. You start your day with inner space. Do you see the difference in how that day would unfold? A crowded mind will always crave more. More noise, more things, more approval. But a spacious mind is satisfied with less. It finds richness in silence, meaning in small moments, and joy in simplicity. I once heard someone say, if you don't go within, you go without. And how true that is. We keep looking outside for something to make us feel whole, but the wholeness is already within. It just needs space to breathe. Just like a seed already contains a tree, your soul already contains the peace you're searching for. It just needs silence to grow. And don't mistake stillness for weakness. In fact, it takes incredible strength to pause, to step away from the chaos, to not react, to not compete, to not please everyone. That's what inner space gives you. It gives you the power to protect your energy, to preserve your sanity, 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 to preserve your sanity. Many people think they need a long vacation to find peace. But peace doesn't come from the mountains or the oceans. It comes from making space inside. Even if you're sitting in traffic or standing in a grocery store line, it's about closing your eyes, even for 10 seconds, and whispering to yourself, I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm safe. And in that moment, you've created space. The best relationships, the best ideas, and the best decisions come from a spacious mind. Because only when you're not overwhelmed can you really listen. Only when you're not rushing can you truly love. Only when your cup isn't overflowing can you pour into others without resentment. So today, make it a practice. 5 minutes of silence, 1 deep breath before a meeting, a walk without your phone, a night without scrolling. These small choices build inner space, and that space becomes your sanctuary. Don't let the world shrink your soul. Don't let noise replace your nature. You were not made to live rushed, distracted, and disconnected. You were made to feel, to grow, to connect, to be aware. And that begins not by doing more, but by holding space within for what really matters. In this space, you will find your calm. In this space, you will find your clarity. In this space, you will finally find yourself. Have you ever caught yourself lost in a whirlwind of thoughts? One moment you're thinking about something that happened yesterday, the next you're worrying about what might happen tomorrow. It's as if your mind is constantly running, like a non-stop movie reel, playing every scenario, every doubt, every fear. But here's something truly life-changing to realize. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them.